For most of us, sex is driven by desire, connection, and love. For the Spartans, it was none of those things. Imagine a society where making love was a civic duty, not a choice. For most cultures, intimacy springs from connection, passion, or affection. In Sparta, it was dictated by law, enforced to craft the deadliest soldiers the ancient world would see. Boys weren't born to families, they were born to the state. Their transformation began long before the battlefield, in spaces far more private than a soldier's camp. The legendary 300, that story conceals a far darker truth. A society so ruthless it makes modern dystopias look forgiving. At its core, Sparta exercised absolute authority over reproduction. Individual choice in matters of love or marriage was irrelevant. Only the state decided who paired with whom. Elders, hardened by decades of warfare, judged young men as if they were livestock. Height, strength, lineage. Women were selected for fertility and resilience, not beauty. Every union had a single objective: produce warriors strong enough to defend Sparta. Marriages were strategic and emotionless. Desire was optional, duty mandatory. Women's value was measured by their ability to bear powerful children. From childhood, girls trained physically, preparing their bodies for the role of motherhood, not for combat. Yet the system went further, into moral territory that today seems monstrous. If a warrior's wife couldn't conceive, Sparta permitted the strongest men to father children with another's spouse. It wasn't considered betrayal, it was civic duty. Children were assessed not as individuals, but as contributions to the state. Only those who met strict physical standards were allowed to live. Strength determined survival, not affection. Cliffside visual, those who failed were left on remote cliffs, nature deciding their fate. Passing the inspection was just the beginning. A Spartan child's life was a path toward war from the first breath. By age 7, a Spartan boy's true education began. The Agoge comfort was the enemy. Reeds torn from rivers became bedding. A single rough tunic served through freezing winters and scorching summers. Hunger was deliberate, a controlled deprivation meant to sharpen cunning. Stealing was encouraged, not as crime, but as survival skill. To fail meant punishment, not for the act, but for incompetence. A boy who couldn't navigate shadows was unfit for the battlefield. Older boys, the urn, acted as tyrants, mentors, and tormentors. Public humiliation was daily. Every hesitation, every wrong word, every faltering glance became a lesson in endurance and cunning. Pain and fear were used strategically to teach obedience and cleverness. The ultimate test was at the altar of Artemis Author. Boys ran through whips to seize cheese from the altar, enduring agony without a scream. Survival meant more than speed, it meant emotional control. Fear was training. Pain was a teacher. Those who perished during these rituals were celebrated silently. Death was a proof of courage, not tragedy. The Agoge wasn't just shaping soldiers, it was engineering predators capable of calculated brutality. Every aspect of life reinforced loyalty to Sparta, above family or self. Speech was weaponized. Silence became armor. Questions were traps. Hesitation invited punishment. Minds were sharpened like blades, stripped of unnecessary emotion. By constantly enduring hunger, cold, and blows, boys learned to obey without question. Rivalry fueled excellence. Aggression was rewarded. Trust was earned cautiously. Weakness wasn't tolerated, it threatened the entire state. Training was physical, mental, and moral. Lies, theft, and cunning weren't sins, they were tools of survival. Spartan youth learned that failure could not exist in isolation. Each mistake might cost comrades their lives. This relentless shaping continued until they reached manhood, producing individuals who could kill efficiently, follow orders flawlessly, and suppress natural compassion. Every Spartan emerged from the Agoge as a weapon, their soul tempered to the state's harsh demands. By the time a Spartan reached adulthood, his training culminated in something far more sinister: the cryptia missions. These weren't conventional battles. Young men were sent alone, armed only with a dagger and minimal provisions, to eliminate threats to the state under cover of darkness. Survival depended on stealth, patience, and ruthlessness. Each year, the E-Force, the city's ruling magistrates, declared war on the helots, granting legal authority to kill without consequence. In this way, mass murder became civic duty, and the killers were soldiers, not criminals. The ritual taught Spartans one ultimate lesson: mercy was obsolete. Success justified any action. Failure was unthinkable. Each night, mission forged their ability to obey without hesitation, to think like predators, and to act with cold precision. Yet freedom was an illusion. At 30, a man might leave communal barracks, but his obligations continued. Marriage was dictated by the state, not desire. His wife was chosen for strength and resilience, trained to be his equal in the creation of future warriors. Spartan women were not passive participants, they were pillars of this militarized society. Educated, trained, and respected, they managed property, households, and the reproductive mission. The union of husband and wife was a controlled ritual, brief, secretive, and focused solely on conception. Even the most private human acts were orchestrated to serve the state. Love, tenderness, or domestic comfort had no role. The Spartan system prioritized reproductive precision above all else, producing soldiers and mothers of soldiers, a human assembly line honed for war. Yet perfection carried hidden costs. Sparta's obsession with elite warriors narrowed the gene pool. Every battle casualty was irreplaceable. Rigid discipline produced flawless soldiers but not innovative leaders. When confronted with evolving warfare, these warriors struggled against adaptable enemies. Excess wealth and luxury, introduced after victories like the Peloponnesian War, corroded Sparta's austere principles. Greed replaced equality. Corruption seeped into the ranks, undermining the very system that had forged generations of warriors. Overflowing treasure, and then came lucre. The Theban general's strategy crushed the Spartan right wing, killing kings and elite soldiers alike. Innovation shattered rigidity, revealing the flaw in Sparta's meticulously engineered society. Its greatest strength, exclusive elite warriors, became its fatal vulnerability. Spartan women were the backbone of this relentless system. Women training in open fields. From childhood, they were educated, physically conditioned, and taught to manage estates. Their value was measured by the strength of the children they bore. Tenderness and affection were secondary to civic duty. Marriage was a controlled operation. The groom did not court his bride, he entered her home in secrecy, performed his duty, and returned to the barracks. This ensured emotional detachment and preserved loyalty to the state above all else. Mothers were equally instruments of state ideology. Sons were handed over at age 7 with only one instruction: return with your shield, or upon it. Mother handing shield to son. Love was replaced by obedience. Care was replaced by preparation for sacrifice. Women themselves were trained to suppress softness. They ran, wrestled, and practiced physical skills to ensure their bodies could produce strong warriors. They weren't passive victims, they were active participants in forging Sparta's military machine. The cycle of life in Sparta revolved around control and reproduction. men and women were molded by the state to produce the next generation of warriors. Every union was strategically designed, and every child was tested at birth for physical and mental aptitude. Even cultural rituals reinforced this ideology. Festivals, parades, and ceremonies served as public reminders of civic duty, exposing those who failed to comply with derision. A man who refused to marry or produce heirs was humiliated and marked as disloyal. Yet despite the rigorous efficiency of this system, cracks appeared. Sparta's obsession with perfection led to demographic issues. Weak infants were abandoned. Elite soldiers were lost in battle, and the narrow gene pool became a structural weakness. Ultimately, Spartan women carried both privilege and burden. They had autonomy denied in much of Greece, yet their lives were rigidly defined by duty. Their honor was measured not by affection or achievement, but by the strength and number of children they contributed to the state. Despite centuries of dominance, Sparta's rigid system carried the seeds of its own undoing. Elite warriors were irreplaceable. Every casualty weakened the gene pool. Inflexible strategies left them vulnerable to innovative opponents. Victory brought wealth that eroded austerity and discipline, corroding the principles that had once defined them. Even the greatest victories could not prevent the decay of a society obsessed with perfection. Philosophers like Plato observed Sparta and admired its order, but missed the human cost. The pursuit of flawless soldiers had sacrificed compassion, innovation, and the very longevity of the state. Sparta's decline became inevitable. Defeats like the one at Leuctra exposed the fragility of a civilization built on selective breeding and militarized obsession. What had once been the pinnacle of martial excellence became a cautionary tale. By the Roman era, Sparta was little more than a living museum, its streets filled with travelers witnessing echoes of past glory. The machine that forged legendary warriors had consumed itself, leaving behind ruins and the haunting lesson that obsession with perfection can destroy even the mightiest society. Perfection destroyed them from within. Even with unmatched discipline and unmatched courage, Sparta's rigid society could not adapt. Every child, every soldier, every ritual served one ultimate purpose: strength at any human cost. As we reflect on their story, consider this. What would you sacrifice to create the perfect society? And at what point does devotion to an ideal cross into cruelty? If you found this story of Spartan discipline and human sacrifice compelling, like this video and subscribe to The Hidden Facts for more shocking histories and untold truths.